There will now be a moment of silence, prayer, or meditation.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. Let's be seated. I take this moment and welcome you, honorable members, those that have joined in the House and as well as those that have joined in virtually. We want to thank you for your attendance in your own sitting, and we value your contribution that you are making in the House. I'd also like to take this moment to remind delegates that the rules, in particular Sub-Rule 21, 22, and 23 of Rule 103 does apply in this sitting. I have been informed that there will be no notices of motion or motions without notice. Honorable members, we shall now proceed to the subject for debate as printed on the order paper.
Honorable Chair.
Yes, Honorable.
Honorable Chair, I'd like to rise in a point of order.
In terms of rule?
Rule 69(6), please, Chair.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, the Deputy or the House Chair, Khadebe, yesterday deferred ruling, and this rule states that the presiding officer must give a ruling, and if he or she refers the ruling or defers the ruling, the decision must be presented at the earliest opportunity thereafter by way of a considered ruling. So this is the earliest opportunity thereafter. And the ruling was in terms of the question that was posed when Honorable Nkonyama casted aspersions on Honorable Godsell by saying that the police are killers. And he said so in this House. And so we said we were going to check the Hansard, and the ruling will be made at the earliest opportunity, which is now in terms of this Rule 6. Thank you, Madam Chair.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Badenhorst. Indeed, the ruling has to be given immediately. Now, if we are not ready because of we may not have heard properly what was said by the honorable member, that then gives us an opportunity to go and listen to the Hansard. And immediately after that, we come back to the House and give a ruling in that regard. However, must indicate that that process, it's still underway, and tomorrow you'll definitely be given a response to that. So a response is still being crafted in that regard. So there is no way in the rules where it explicitly states that the following day. So a discretion subject to the interpretation and a proper legal context will then make a determination as to how soon and how quick a ruling should be given in this regard. We have noted definitely the concern that was raised by yourself in a form of the order against the Honorable Nonkanyane on the matter was concerning Honorable Godsell. A ruling has not been made. That determination will then accordingly be made by end of business, probably today or first thing tomorrow morning before the sitting starts. So a decision will be taken. I have followed up on the matter. I have also had an opportunity to listen to the Hansard, and accordingly, a ruling will be made tomorrow. Thank you very much, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was just by way of reminder. Thank you.
Hi, by the time I leave here, I'll have gray hair just as you.
I serve at your pleasure.
You keep me busy in this chair. Honorable Khadebe.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. It is true that I have given an undertaking that
Are you raising on which order, Honorable?
the same order, Rule 69. The issue have just given an undertaking that this thing can be done tomorrow. Chairperson, tomorrow I'll not be in the house. As you know that I've got family bereavement. That's why I indicated that it was either going to be today or next week. So they cannot come back tomorrow and demand that, because that ruling, the person who made the ruling is me who must come and report back in the house. That's what I wanted to raise. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, yes. By the way, Honorable Member has a bereavement tomorrow, Honorable Badenhorst, and therefore the ruling will then be suspended for tomorrow until next week, Tuesday. Yes. Thank you for reminding me. I almost forgot that you do have a commitment tomorrow. There being no further point of order, we shall proceed with the business of the day, which is the debate on the significant increase in electricity costs resulting from NERSA's decision to grant Eskom's application to retrospectively raise charges and measures to protect the most vulnerable in our society from the ever-increasing cost of living. And accordingly, the debate was proposed by a DA in the name of Honorable Ryder. I now call upon Honorable Ryder to open the debate.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Good afternoon, honourable members, ladies and gentlemen. Amandla, power to the people. Who would have thought that the liberation movement, the African National Congress, would have spent over 2 decades taking power away from the people? That is why the voters took their power away in 2024. That's no exaggeration. First, the ANC brought a new phenomenon to the world, so unusual that they had to make a new name for it: load shedding. The word entered our lexicon in 2008 as demand outstripped supply of electricity. And don't let anyone tell you a tale that it is only Zuma's fault. He certainly did his fair share of damage, but it was in the era of President Thabo Mbeki that the decision was made to stop investing in power plants and in maintenance of the giant generators that make the electricity that powers our economy, that warms our homes and that cooks our meals. The power that switches on the machines that give our people jobs has been strangled by years of bad decisions, years of failed ideology, and then years of unfettered self-enrichment and blatant theft. That decision taken by Mr. Mbeki's cabinet defines our society today. Supply and demand is the most basic of economic concepts, and it's taught in Economics 101. It's also learned much earlier in life, when the best sweets at the tuck shop or at the spaza shop always cost more. Only the Skotane can afford bar one. The skeppers must make do buying chomp. As electricity becomes more scarce, people will pay more for it. And scarce it became, with load shedding becoming a daily occurrence for most South Africans for the last 10 years. Honourable members, while no new generation capacity was added to the grid in South Africa, the workforce of Eskom increased by more than 33% from 2004 to 2021. Where 3 people once did a job, now we must pay 4 or even 5 to do that same job. Even more frightening is the increased cost per employee at Eskom, with average salaries of Eskom staff increasing to above 750,000 Rand in 2022. Yes, the Eskom kids are eating the bar ones and they're drinking Coke. The rest of us eat chomp and we drink oros. But people got tired of not having electricity, and Eskom told us as well that we must use less electricity. Every night on the SABC News, they told us to turn off the stove. How many companies do you know that ask their customers to use less of their products? Inevitably, this caused problems for Eskom, and people who were paying for Eskom, paying for their electricity, started using less Eskom power because they could afford to buy solar power. So less money was coming in. That's not good, because now Eskom can't pay all those big salaries. The only solution for Eskom, put up the price. That's how monopolies work. And now, after years of telling us not to use electricity, Eskom wants to charge people who have made a plan and are not using their electricity. But worse than this, they are building in a charge for those that are still reliant on Eskom for power to make sure that they cover the costs retrospectively for the people that have left Eskom. Yes, South Africa, a part of the increase that is currently under debate is to cover last year's shortfall from lower demand because of the people that did what Eskom said they should do and found better ways to get their power. Honorable Pinar will detail some of the facts and figures when he speaks in a few minutes' time. South Africans have been struggling to make ends meet for years now, and it seems that the government has been doing its best to keep South Africa on their knees. The fallout from Zuma's decade of pillage and theft, combined with the lack of political will in a post-Zuma government, and then compounded by the terrible handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, have left South Africans worse off than they ever were before. Government seems to have been caught in a holding pattern where adherence to ideology has blocked any real progress. Our hope is now, with the government of national unity, to turn things around. This will be a process. Change will not happen overnight. But, Madam Chair, there are parts of government that continue to bring misery to South Africans. The late Minister Pravin Gordhan was clear when he said that Eskom was the prime site of state capture. The chair of the task team on Eskom, Mr. Anton Eberhard, agreed, saying, and I quote, "We should not underestimate the impacts of state capture at SOEs in hollowing out skills, extraordinary disruption and undermining of governance systems at board level and at management level. This is what we have seen in our investigation. We've seen just how deep this runs through the organization and the extent to which the best people have left, and some of those who were disrupted by rent-seeking activities," end quote. Honorable members, I'm spending a bit of time making this point because Eskom seems to be making themselves out to be the victims in this story. They are not the victims. As an organization, they have squandered the prime position that they once held as the top power company of the year, internationally recognized by an award as recently as 2001. Since then, Eskom engaged in massive nepotism, with then Minister Lynn Brown bearing a report on a 1 billion rand nepotism scandal. Eskom is engaged in corrupt tender awards, giving contracts to coal suppliers such as Tageta and wiring contracts to companies owned by the Zuma insider Silas Zima. Other awards were precursors to large donations made to the African National Congress, such as the donations made by Impulse. Corrupt tenders are commonplace, colleagues, but let's have an auction here today. This is a toilet roll, single ply. SPAR lists it at $4.99. Special deal for you today is at the Eskom discount price, and the opening bid is 26 Rand. Any takers at 26 Rand? The next item could be a dustbin bag, $2.99 at Checkers, but Eskom price, 51 Rand. Middlemen were pocketing on average 30% for no value added. Some of these prices are way beyond that. For heaven's sake, colleagues, Eskom paid 238,000 Rand for a mop. Eskom is not a state-owned enterprise, it's a crime scene. The involvement of the ANC's investment vehicle, Chancellor House, has been well documented, as tender manipulation became the order of the day. Who would have thought that paying 238,000 rand for a mop would pale into insignificance when compared to the size of the deals where Hitachi Power was favored over Alstom in spite of their higher price, but mostly because they had the right connections. The results are staggering. Honourable members, I've been in banking and finance for 35 years, and yet I struggle to conceptualize how much money 154 billion rand is. President Ramaphosa would need to stay in office for 48,125 years to earn this amount on his current salary. Yet, that was the cost overrun of the Medupi power station. The inefficiencies at Eskom have caused the economy to be strangled, as industry has not had the power to run machinery, and shops have had to spend a fortune on alternative power sources to run their businesses. The result has been higher costs for goods and services and fewer jobs for our people, as businesses cut costs or even go out of business. So let us turn now to the latest request from Eskom for an almost 40% increase in electricity costs, an increase to be borne by the same people who have suffered under load shedding and the resultant loss of quality of life and even loss of jobs. How can 40% be justified? How can we be asked to pay for the mistakes of Eskom and the theft that happened there? That can't be right. We hear the usual cries, somebody must stop them. But who? Let's look at the body that must consider the request for this increase. The National Energy Regulator of South Africa, NERSA, is an independent body born out of the National Energy Regulator Act of 2004. The Act clearly states, amongst other things, in Section 9 that, and here I quote again, members of the Energy Regulator must, 9A, act in a justifiable and transparent manner whenever the exercise of their discretion is required. And 9F, act in the public interest. Is a 40% increase in electricity prices in the public interest? Absolutely not. This will reinforce patterns of energy poverty and make South Africa's manufacturing industry totally uncompetitive, from load shedding to job shedding in one quick move. Yes, energy poverty is real, and a more than 650% increase in the cost of electricity over the past 17 years has made energy a luxury, made electricity a luxury. This has had a profound effect on poor households, and Honourable Skierkogel will expand more on this later on today in the debate. Now, NERSA is independent, Honourable Chairperson, and that independence means that they should be given the armour to resist political interference. It should not be a veil behind which they can hide. They remain accountable to Parliament and to South Africans, and we must ensure that they make their decisions within the law which guides their processes. So let's talk about those laws. The Act I mentioned earlier from 2004 was supplemented by the Energy Regulation Act, Act 4 of 2006. That Act specifically states that under Section 16, which is headed Tariff Principles, it says a license condition determined, A, must enable an efficient licensee to recover the full cost of its licensed activities, including a reasonable margin or return. So the emphasis there must be on the word efficient. Is Eskom efficient? Absolutely not. They have expanded their workforce dramatically without adding much generation capacity. They cannot collect their debts. They accept loads of stone when they should be accepting coal, and they pay 238,000 rand for a mop. Efficient? I think not. Let's talk about another piece of Eskom's grand legacy, something that they built that is literally a monument to failure. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 840 million rand ghost town, a town that doesn't have a single resident, a town that exists pretty much only on paper, like some kind of deranged fantasy from a corrupt bureaucrat's dream. But make no mistake, it's not fiction. It's real, and it cost us 840 million rand. For what? Not a single soul lives there, honourable members. Not a single streetlight has ever switched on. Not a single house has ever been occupied. Eskom went ahead and built a whole town to house its employees in the middle of nowhere, with no infrastructure, no other jobs, and no purpose. It's like something out of a bad sitcom, except that there's no punchline, there's no canned laughter, there's just more wasted taxpayer money. Now, who here thinks that this is acceptable? Who here is willing to sit back and let this kind of madness continue? Because that's what it is, absolute madness. An entire town built with public funds meant to house Eskom workers, only to be left empty and neglected and abandoned. It's the kind of thing you'd expect in a dictatorship where leaders live in their ivory towers, completely disconnected from the suffering of the people they're supposed to serve. We are not dictators. We should not be sitting in ivory towers. This is money that could have been used to build actual homes for real people. Homes for those who are suffering in informal settlements. Homes for people living in the dark, while Eskom continues to fail at its job. But no, we're stuck with an empty town, a tragic waste of resources. Does this strike you, honourable members, as an efficient licensee as defined by the Act? Not by any stretch of the imagination. Honourable members and fellow South Africans, we talk endlessly about consequence management. I prefer consequence implementation, but what are the consequences? Where are the consequences for the shockingly bad decisions that were made at Eskom, for the blatant theft at Eskom? Where are the consequences for an industry protected by decades from any competition? The increases proposed are unaffordable to people trying desperately to get just from one payday to the next, and that's the people that are lucky enough to have a payday. The increases proposed are unaffordable to South African businesses trying to compete in an already tough market. The increases are unaffordable to an economy that needs to grow at a rate higher than our population growth rate in order to beat the abnormally high unemployment that holds so many South Africans back from achieving their dreams. As NERSA engages on its public hearings this week and next, it's therefore incumbent on all South Africans to make sure that we demand that they do act in the interest of us all. We demand that they reject Eskom's pleas to fund their inefficiencies and the costs of state capture. We call on people to visit www.stoppowergrab.da.org.za and sign the petition. Go to NERSA's public hearings. Talk. Protest peacefully. Make your voices heard. The choice for South Africans is clear. The builders are busy getting South Africa back on track with a GNU. The positivity felt in our economy, in our currency, and in international and local sentiment is a demonstration that we have started correctly. The breakers, on the other hand, want to reward the drivers of state capture, rewarding people who ran up R500 billion in debt on Eskom's balance sheet with positions as members of parliament, rewarding the people that paid 238,000 rand for a mop like this one. 238,000 rand. Back the builders. Let's beat load shedding. Let's beat job shedding. Stand together. Stand up to the bullies that have never been challenged. Amandla.
Amandla hambisana nokuthi utheni asizwanga. Next. Thank you very much, Honorable Ryder. We'll now move on to the next speaker, which is Honorable Sithole.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, Honorable Chief Whip, Honorable House Chairs, Honorable Delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Allow me to thank the Democratic Alliance for bringing this very important debate. It allows us an opportunity to give context to the current state of electricity in our country and detail the intervention that have been championed by the African National Congress. To expand access to electricity to all our people, regardless of race, color, creed, religion, gender, class, caste, or any other social status. Our electrification drive since 1994 has improved all aspects of life and has created safer communities where most of our people are no longer reliant on candles, paraffin stoves, and open fire for energy. Since 1994, South Africa has been on a path to transform its electricity system that will expand access to electricity and ultimately lower the price of electricity for all South Africans. While the right to electricity is not explicitly stated in South African Constitution, it is considered a condition for exercising other rights, such as the right to access water, housing, and healthcare. The right to electricity should be understood in the context of the fact that electricity improves the socio-economic rights situation in South Africa. The effective enjoyment of some constitutional rights that are enshrined in the Constitution depend largely on the access to electricity. Honorable Chairperson, in 1994, Parliament approved a plan to ensure equal access to basic services for all South Africans, and the Reconstruction and Development Program strategy was born. Eskom and the municipality electrified approximately 2.5 million households from 1994 to 1998. The National Energy Regulator of South Africa was tasked to develop and oversee the implementation of the Integrated National Electrification Program from 1999 to 2001. Eskom was tasked by NERSA to undertake the implementation through the use of contractors and service providers. In the year 2001, the government decided to transfer the responsibility and implementation oversight of the electrification program to the Department of Mineral and Energy. Enormous progress has been made today to expand access to electricity to South Africans. Over 7.4 million households have been connected to grid, and over 160,000 were connected by non-grid technology between 1994 and 31 March 2018. For example, the solar panels. Municipalities and Eskom are responsible for reticulation and distribution of electricity to households in their licensed supply area, and they are both funded by the Department of Electricity through INEP programs. The Department of Electricity have several policies emanating from the White Paper of 1998. These policies are the ones that enable electrification to be focused and also to maximize the expected outcome of electrification. Currently, at least over 200 households are electrified. 20,000 to non-grid medium voltage lines and new bulk substation per annum are constructed to extend the services to deep rural areas, including 27 priority districts. The main funding of the National Electrification Program is a conditional grant allocation through the national budget. The Department of Electricity occasionally provides capacity building support to municipalities struggling to implement the electrification program. Honorable House Chairperson, Eskom financial crisis to advance its mandate to provide South Africans with access to reliable energy is well documented and attributed solely to the lack of cost-effective tariffs and the resultant revenue shortfalls, which has been an ongoing challenge since 2006. Essentially, Eskom tariffs that are determined by NERSA have been insufficient to cover the prudent and efficient cost that the national utility incurs to supply electricity to customers, and also provide a fair return on capital. Consequently, Eskom has been forced to increase reliance on debt and government guarantees to fund the revenue shortfalls. Together with the escalating municipal areas debt and the high debt service cost, unfortunately contribute to Eskom liquidity constraints and therefore jeopardize its ability to continue as a going concern. Whilst it may seem to be irrelevant given the suspension of load shedding for more than 200 consecutive days, revenue shortfalls linked to the lack of cost-reflective tariffs deprives Eskom of funds to perform reliability maintenance across its coal-fired power stations. This undermines the quality of service to existing customers. The reliability of the maintenance backlog will rise rapidly unless tariffs are adjusted accordingly to reflect the actual cost of generating, transmitting, and distributing electricity. Honorable Chairperson, Eskom has been raising the fact that over the past decade, the prospect of migrating to cost-reflective tariffs as its key priority remains a challenge, primarily because the tariff set by NERSA, which is entrusted with the responsibility to regulate tariffs to prevent excessive pricing of electricity. In the main, the concern is that the NERSA tariffs structure is below the total cost incurred, thereby desensitizing new investment in reliability maintenance and expansion of service coverage. The conclusion drawn by Eskom is that NERSA tariffs determination had been a distortionary, or better put, present a high risk of allocative inefficiency, and hence Eskom has lodged several review applications with the court to challenge NERSA determination. Honorable Chairperson, in December 2021, NERSA approved 3.5 billion to be recovered through the regulatory clearance account mechanism, which is monitored and tracking mechanism that compared certain uncontrollable costs and revenue assumed in the multi-year price determination against Eskom application of 8.4 billion. Eskom has since submitted a court review application to challenge NERSA decision on a similar basis as previous RCA decisions. Unfortunately, NERSA did not oppose the review application. In December 2022, NERSA determined the timing of the recovery of the RCA with 3.3 billion to be recovered equally over 3 years from standard tariffs customers, in brackets 1.1 billion per year from 2025 to 2027, and the remaining 135 million to be recovered from local special pricing arrangement customers and international customers. Eskom has accepted NERSA's decision around the recovery of the RCA, although the court review application relating to RCA decision was still underway. In June 2022, the Supreme Court of Appeal issued an order on the timing of the recovery of the remaining 59 billion due to Eskom, arising from the 69 billion government support incorrectly deducted by NERSA in its revenue determination for MYPD4. In terms of the court order, NERSA was required to include an additional 15 billion in allowable revenue per year in 2024. to 2026 financial year and 14 billion in 2027 financial year. NERSA has complied with the court order in its multi-year price determination 5 revenue decision for 2024 and 2025. In May 2023, NERSA published its reasons for the decision for an RCA of 204 million in favor of the consumers against the application of 10.7 billion in favor of Eskom. Eskom reviewed NERSA decision on a similar basis as previous RCA decision, as it was evident that NERSA had not implemented previous court order decision when making this decision. The case was lodged in October 2023. In April 2023, Eskom submitted RCA application of 23.9 billion in favor of Eskom for the 2022 financial year, driven primarily by revenue, primary energy, and operating cost variances. The RCA application was delayed because of the late release of Eskom's audited financial statement for 2022 financial year. Based on the published timeline, NERSA was expected to make its decision by December 2023. Honorable Chairperson, NERSA's decision to grant Eskom application to retrospectively recovery 8.1 billion through the RCA for the 2021-2022 financial year, translating to a 4% tariff increase for 2025-2026 financial year, is part of the broader development of court review applications submitted by Eskom to address NERSA's incorrect treatment of the regulatory asset base. Honorable Chairperson, while Eskom initially sought 23.9 billion through its RCA application, as noted already to be financial, sustainable, and achieve cost reflective, NERSA approved only 8.1 billion, implying that the energy regulator remains committed to balancing the need to secure Eskom financial position whilst protecting vulnerable and poor households from high electricity prices. Although NERSA decision to approve Eskom RCA application,
your time is up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sitole. I'm now inviting Honorable Williams, who's on virtual platform, the MEC for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Eastern Cape.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Greetings to you and to the members of the House. Chair, it is an honor to address this critical debate, and the issue before us today carries profound implications for the dignity and livelihoods of millions of South Africans. The rising cost of electricity is not just an economic matter. It is a question of justice and humanity. We must acknowledge the consistent stance of President Cyril Ramaphosa, who has prioritized protecting the poor and vulnerable, especially during these challenging economic times. His leadership reminds us that in times of hardship, our responsibility to the most disadvantaged cannot be compromised. NERSA's recent decision to approve a retrospective tariff increase for Eskom aims to stabilize the utilities' finances. However, this move has triggered unintended and far-reaching consequences for vulnerable households and small businesses. This decision is being implemented at a time when South Africans are grappling with a rising cost of living crisis, marked by high inflation, stagnant wages, and persistent energy insecurity. For many South Africans, electricity is not a luxury, but a basic necessity. Increased tariffs force families to make heartbreaking choices between powering their homes and meeting other essential needs like food, education, and healthcare. These price hikes really deepens energy poverty, disproportionately affecting the poor who already shoulder a heavy burden. Honorable Chair, President Ramaphosa has consistently championed a pro-poor policy agenda, recognizing the need to shield the vulnerable from further hardships. In his 2024 State of the Nation address, he reminded us that building a more equitable society means ensuring that no South African is left behind, particularly during periods of economic strain. He further called for a delicate balance between Eskom's recovery efforts and the protection of vulnerable groups. He has advocated for the acceleration of renewable energy solutions and strengthening programs like free basic electricity to provide relief to indigent households. Moreover, he has emphasized the importance of solidarity. Wealthier households and businesses must shoulder a fairer share of the burden through progressive cross-subsidization. This approach underscores the government's commitment to equity, justice, and shared responsibility in addressing the energy crisis. To mitigate the impact of rising electricity costs, we must implement targeted measures to protect the poor and vulnerable. First, the free basic electricity policy must be expanded to ensure that the indigent households receive adequate support in the face of tariff increases. We must work closely with municipalities to streamline the program's delivery and address inefficiencies. Secondly, we also need to strengthen the lifeline tariff, which provides subsidized electricity to low-income users. Access to this tariff must be simplified, and public awareness campaigns should be rolled out to ensure that eligible households can benefit. Thirdly, the diversifying of energy sources is essential. Increased investment in renewable energy solutions, particularly for low-income and rural households, is a long-term strategy to reduce dependency on Eskom. The just energy transition must be accelerated to bring affordable and clean energy alternatives into the national grid. Moreover, we should explore direct subsidies for electricity consumption in households relying on social grants. Aligning energy relief with existing social protection measures can provide immediate and tangible support. Our government must demand financial oversight and accountability at Eskom. Corruption and inefficiencies must be addressed decisively to reduce the utilities' reliance on tariff increases. Eskom must demonstrate cost-cutting measures and financial discipline before passing costs on to the consumers. Lastly, Chair, public education campaigns on energy efficiency are vital to help households manage consumption and reduce costs. Partnerships with local businesses can also facilitate access to energy-efficient appliances at affordable rates for low-income communities. While addressing electricity costs is urgent, we must also look at broader measures to ease the cost of living for struggling households. Strengthening food security through increased efforts for subsistence farming and local food production can reduce household expenses. Expanding public employment programs provides temporary relief and empowers communities. Additionally, enhancing access to affordable public transport will help families manage their overall financial burden. In the face of these challenges, let us show our legislative solidarity. I urge all members of the House to unite in advocating for a practical and urgent solutions to mitigate the impact of rising energy costs. Collaboration is key. Government, civil society, and private sector must work together to ensure equitable energy access and relief for vulnerable communities. As public representatives, we must reaffirm our commitment to building an equitable society. The African National Congress remains steadfast in its mission to uplift the poor and ensure that the vulnerable are never left behind. In closing, Honorable Chair, let us reflect on the vision articulated by President Ramaphosa. It reminds us that the nation's success is measured by how we uplift the most vulnerable amongst us. The government is actively addressing the energy crisis with a firm commitment to social justice and economic inclusivity. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. We are now moving to the next speaker, which is Honorable PLENARY.
With the Honorable Ryder. He's keeping it for me, don't worry. Honorable Chairperson, it's nice seeing you again. Honorable members, my fellow South Africans, soos altyd, goeiemiddag, Tsobela, good day. Before I start, Honorable Chairperson, I again find it very concerning that the members of the EFF is consistently absent in this House. Out of the 8 MPs today, we have 2 from the EFF.
Honorable Member, can you stick to your debate? Don't take the register. We do have officials
Sorry, can you
working
not
that.
interrupt me?
Just debate. The people of
you,
South
Chairperson.
Africa are awaiting your input.
You
like the EFF, ne?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
You can join if you want to.
Thank you, Chairperson. While people are struggling to find jobs and put food on the table, the state through NERSA wants to increase electricity costs by more than 36%. And the further 4% for next year on top of that. That's over 40% that the public has to wear the cost the brunt of, forcing people to now choose between putting food on the table and keeping the lights on. It's not the wealthy that will suffer the tariff increases if the tariff increases are approved, but the most desperate and vulnerable of our society. Those that have the means have mostly already gone over to solar, and the ones who were holding out, hoping things would get better, will now be motivated to completely remove themselves from the Eskom power grid. Companies have been struggling with slim margins for years due to the unreliable supply of electricity, and in order for companies to keep their doors open going forward, they will start retrenching workers, adding to the already high unemployment figures. And the government will rightfully be blamed. Honourable members, the poor and the vulnerable will suffer, and the lines at SASSA will get longer, and our tax base will decrease. Less people are employed equals less people are paying income tax equals less people for government to deliver services. It's a very simple formula. We should not shoot ourselves in the foot and further discourage investment. We are only now starting to see glimmers of hope as we, as the GNU, are turning the tide against unemployment. It is critical we keep the momentum going. Eskom gave South Africans a life of hell with load shedding for years. Let's give the citizens a break from the Eskom mismanagement. Last year alone, Eskom lost 24 billion rand. I want to repeat that figure for my honorable members. Last year alone, Eskom lost 24 billion rand. That includes, but not limited to, 6 billion on material losses and another 5 billion on irregular expenditure. While at the same time, ANC municipalities owe Eskom another 90 billion rand. So before one more red cent is taken from hard-working taxpayers, Eskom should first collect the monies owed to them by these municipalities before burdening the public. Honourable members of the NCOP, the citizens that we all represent in this House cannot afford these increases. If any politician stands here today and says anything different, we should all reject that speaker as a collective. We know how bad our people are suffering already on the ground. We should stand firm on this and ensure this proposed increase is scrapped. In a show of force, the DA has already submitted over 200,000 signatures against the tariff increases. And we hope all other political parties will also show their support against these increases publicly. We do not agree on much, but trust and hope we can all agree on this for the sake of our people. Since 2007, Eskom has raised electricity prices by over 650%. This House must condemn any further increases until Eskom can prove to us, the duly elected representatives of the public, that they are able to manage their balance sheets. IPPs are standing ready to inject not only cost-effective electricity, but green energy as well into our energy grid. Let us ensure the red tape the President Ramaphosa spoke about in his opening address is removed. The days of our energy being monopolized by Eskom is soon coming to an end. Slowly but surely, the market is opening. But it is our responsibility as legislators to break the chains Eskom is holding over our country. I dream of the day where I can choose where I buy my electricity from, just like I choose where I buy my fuel from. Freedom of choice will create competition that will do two critical things: improve the quality of services and lower the cost. But while we have only one supplier, Eskom will have no motivation to improve services or lower the cost. This is the free market economy we should all be fighting for. And Honourable Chairperson, the two speakers spoke before me concerningly, very, very subtly defended these increases. And I want to make it sure to all my colleagues speaking today, if you claim to represent the poor and the destitute of this country, you must come out here today and clearly state you are rejecting these tariff increases by NERSA. We cannot let our people suffer any longer. It's not me and you that will suffer. It's the most desperate of our society. So I call on any speaker today to reject any sort of NERSA increases. Thank you, Chairperson.
I'm now inviting Honorable Kennedy to take the podium.
A ke thome ke dumedishe modulasetulo wa rena, ke boe ke dumedishe ntlo ka moka ya Makhuduthamaga a molao. Mamutla ngalaba ya taba ke hore koketso ye ya Eskom ya ditšhelete tše telele batho ba bo rena ba ka se kgone mešomo ga eo. Honorable Chairperson, let us understand that electricity is a fundamental public good and should be made available at affordable rate so as to bolster national economic security and support the development of society. As the economic freedom fighters, we are therefore against Eskom electricity tariffs increases, which have been so high for several years, with an increase, for an example, of 18% in 2023 and followed by an increase of 13% in 2024. To add salt to the wound, Eskom has now applied to the National Energy Regulator of South Africa, NERSA, to approve the 36.1% electricity price hike from April 2025 and another 11.8% price increase in 2026 and another 9.1% increase in 2027. As the economic freedom fighters, we have on a number of platforms stated that it is unreasonable to expect our people to shoulder the full cost of electricity, especially that when Eskom was established with public funds, making South Africa electricity amongst the cheapest in the world due to state investment. But now it seems as if the investment never happened, the way it's so expensive, the electricity is so expensive. And we also maintain that Eskom's problems are a direct result of years of ANC-led mismanagement, corruption, and a lack of investment in renewable energy sources. It is the ANC-led government that has for years looted and destroyed Eskom through state capture and corruption. They have for years deliberately sabotaged SOEs by milking them dry, and now that they have destroyed Eskom, they want to cover up their crime through unbundling and privatization. The burden of these failures, therefore, cannot be placed on the shoulders of our people who have a basic right to a consistent supply of electricity. As such, we have taken on various platforms to reject Eskom proposal for tariff increases so as to protect South Africans from the increasing cost of electricity amidst a challenging economic climate. Bearing in mind that South Africa is said to be one of the most unequal countries in the world, if these hikes are approved, it will worsen the economic difficulties facing South Africans. This hike will unjustly hit the poor and working class the hardest, as many families already struggle to keep the lights on and put on the table. This increase will force them to make impossible choices, jeopardizing their basic needs. We are already also battling with an extremely high unemployment rate of 33.5% in the last count of statistics. Whilst our economic growth is slow at a snail's pace and our cost of living rocketing sky high. So it is obvious that the extreme high cost of electricity will worsen all these problems. The electricity challenge is very much prolonged in our country. it has been going on and on for many years. For an example, from 2007 to 2022, Eskom tariffs, according to statistics, skyrocketed by 450%, vastly outpacing inflation, which increased by 129%. This out of proportion 4 times rise in energy costs has crippled household budgets, forcing South Africans to make impossible choices to whether pay for the food or pay for electricity. And the level of free basic electricity is not sufficient for poor household. Subsidy policies should be reviewed for access of affordability as financial situations change negatively. As South Africans, we urgently need affordable electricity, revised tariffs to be protected against exorbitant increases, and NERSA to strengthen its regulations. Honorable Chairperson, Section 153 of the Constitution places the responsibility on municipalities to ensure the provision of services which include electricity reticulation. So when all this Eskom hikes overwhelms the municipalities, the heavy costs are passed on consumers who are me, you, and the poor of the poorest. Everyone will ultimately feel the pinch. And even now, we are already feeling that pinch of electricity hikes. It's obvious that the negative impact of electricity will also have an immense impact on big businesses. And the business people will contemplate on rescuing their income by maybe deciding to generate their own electricity to avoid the high cost of Eskom, or by deciding not to invest in South Africa, or maybe decide to shut down their businesses, which will lead to a huge job losses, which will form part of crippling our economy in South Africa. Honorable Chair, the EFF has consistently called on NERSA to stop issuing private licenses and stand firm against any unreasonable demands from Eskom. We cannot punish citizens for the state failure to invest in sufficient generation capacity to provide affordable, reliable electricity, especially while those responsible for plundering Eskom resources remain unpunished. In closing, Honorable Chair, the EFF stands with South Africans in the struggle for affordable electricity, as made clear in our 2024 manifesto. We advocate for fair and just energy pricing, holding Eskom accountable, and pushing for a resilient and sustainable energy future for South Africa. Under an EFF government, we will revolutionize energy stability by aggressively pursuing a diverse mix of energy sources, leveraging safe coal, nuclear energy, and renewable options such as solar, wind, and hydropower. To avoid the reckless and anti-poor increases in tariffs for electricity, which will never be a solution for anything, the EFF will introduce a direct grant system to incentivize the widespread adoption of embedded generation technologies going beyond superficial tax breaks. Additionally, we'll establish a state-owned mining entity to oversee Eskom's coal mines, ensuring a consistent supply of high-quality coal at a reasonable prices. These decisive measures amongst others, are aimed at delivering a sustainable electricity supply in stark contrast to the ANC current direction of endless tariffs hikes without viable long solution. We also call on government to explore alternatives in energy solutions and investment in renewable energy sources to diversify South Africa's energy mix, reduce reliance on Eskom, and secure affordable energy for all. The EFF will continue to advocate for fair and just energy pricing, holding Eskom accountable and pushing for a resilient and sustainable energy future for South Africa. Lenkwele le na le ditsebe, ke a leboga.
Ra leboga, Mme Kennedy. The next speaker was supposed to be Honorable Mokoena. She's not in the house, and we have also checked if she joined in virtually. She hasn't, and therefore we are going to skip her and move on to Honorable Matibe, the MEC of Economic Development, Environment and Tourism in Limpopo.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greetings to you. The Chief Whip of the NCOP, as well as honorable members present here. The Masiari. Chairperson, in June 1955, the African National Congress, together with the South African Indian Congress, the South African Colored People's Organization, and South African Congress of Democrats, gathered in Kliptown to table a set of principles that will rival inhumanity and cruelty of the then apartheid regime. Through the Freedom Charter, the Congress of the People sought to protect the vulnerable in society and advance their cause for equality, safety, and financial inclusion. This is a cause that our provincial government, through the African National Congress, remains committed to, even in the face of economic challenges. The ANC's commitment to bettering the lives of our people through access to electricity is evident in South Africa's households' access to electricity for lighting, which has generally increased year on year from 58.1% in 1996 to 94.7% in 2022. Limpopo and its 6.6 million citizens fall among the top 3 provinces in our country who hold the highest share of households that have access to electricity for lighting at 95%. When looking at the number of households with no electricity connection over time, it can be seen that in 2013, the household without an electrical connection in Limpopo was at 123,000 and has decreased annually at a rate of minus 9.71 to 44,200 in 2023. Chairperson, but it is to be said that there is inarguably correlation between an energy tariff increase and the weakening of our fight against triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. We are sober to the fact that the high cost of living affects the lower income category of our communities substantially, making it even harder for our people to access basic services. As is the proverbial norm, producers, wholesalers, and retailers deflect the heavy cost brought by the high tariffs into the consumers for the sustenance of their businesses. Despite this, Chairperson, now historical challenges of load shedding, our province has demonstrated through the 2024 labor force survey improvements in creation of jobs, resulting in drop in unemployment. As a government, we will not creatively steer into a place of oblivion where we ignore the facts and nuance of this important matter. We are sober to the reality that in order to maintain healthy coffers of our power utility, safeguard our people's ability to afford food and basic needs, and equally ensure continued growth of our economy, we must thread the needle and balance the scales. It is vital for the health of this debate that we are honest about this government's multi-pronged approach, which is not only subjected to forever ending load shedding, but at the same vein reducing the cost of energy. His Excellency President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa's recent signing into law of Electricity Regulation Amendment Act will transform the landscape of our electricity market and surpass our nation's energy needs. The Act opens a door to more participants in the market, which will automatically enhance energy security, ultimately again lower the general cost to consumers. We are awake to the brilliant and welcomed announcement by Electricity Minister Osienso Ramkupa to introduce a multi-year system and intervention that will provide consumers with relief from higher tariffs. Our government's intervention in its strategic approach to fighting inequality announced last year, a policy under human settlement development that will see the rollout of low-cost houses with solar system as an added feature to reduce the electricity costs. As an added layer, Chairperson, of the effort to reaching every citizen, the rural and far-flung villages of Madimbo and Mavete in Limpopo are proud recipients of the microgrid solar energy system pilot project that will connect 700 households to the solar power. Rikorika vadzulapo va vupo Amadimbo pano Limpopo rikolibu wangamanda urikochumisana navo richikochumisana nava Eskom uri vakono wana hey project ine hey project idokono tusa chichava chinji nova punguzela mutengo wa mdagasi musi vachi renga mdagasi. This project is a first of its kind, Chairperson, and aims to harness the power of Limpopo sun with the second highest radiation compared to Northern Cape to provide access to electricity for our people. These are measures and dedicated interventions, and for their holistic implementation, we welcome the private sector to work with us as a strategic partner. The trajectory of unsustainable electricity hikes requires this level of concerted and multi-sphered government intervention for the protection of our people. The guarantee for better life for all, because together we can grow Limpopo and South Africa together. I thank you. Nda.
Bamsanda Dolebwanga Amanda. The next speaker is Honorable Peter.
Sihlalo wendlu we-NCOP ndiyabulisa. Xa ungekho kwesi sihlalo ndiba ndlongondlongo. Xa ukhona ndiba theni. Sohlala ukhona ukuze ndibe theni. Nkosi. Sihlalo wendlu ndine-problem yamehlo. I've got a problem of eyes. Thank you. Sihlalo wendlu
Ukumphendula hlala endabeni umyeke uyahlupha lo baba.
Ngiyabonga sihlalo. Sihlalo wendlu CUDM Isicelo sika NERSA sisikhaba ngawo mane imilenze sithi asikwazi ukuvumela uNERSA ayenze le increase afuna ukuyenza kubemi belilizwe behlupheke kanjena. Okokuqala CUDM sinombuzo uthi sithini status sika NERSA. Number 2, ngubani na uNERSA. Number 3, ngobani ababantu bakuNERSA. Number 4, ingaba ngabemi belilizwe na. Number 5, urhwaphilizo olwenzeka kwa Eskom maluxhonywe kubemi belilizwe na. Number 6, singaba aba bantu bakaNERSA bahlala kweliphi ilizwe lento bengakwazi ukuzibona intswelo zeli lizwe. ISouth Africa ijongene nemicelimngeni emininzi, Speaker. Imicelimngeni emininzi ejongene neSouth Africa sikhumbula iSouth Africa ibikhe yadowngradewa yabekwa kwizinga elisezantsi kakhulu. Ingaba uNERSA uphi ngalo maxesha iSouth Africa idowngradewa? ISouth Africa ibihlangene nomcelimngeni oyi-COVID-19. Ingaba uNERSA ebephi ngeli xesha iSouth Africa idibana nemicelimngeni ka-COVID-19? Intswelangqesho ekhoyo eSouth Africa, ingaba uNERSA uphi? Indlala ekhoyo eSouth Africa, ingaba uNERSA kayiboni naloo nto? The influx of the people from the abroad without a proper documentation, befika bezokongezelela abemi belilizwe, ingaba uNERSA kayiboni naloo ngxaki? Ilizwe lethu beke laluthishwa kakhulu ngabemi belilizwe kusiliwe, ingabe bephi na uNERSA? Umzekelo, abantu belilizwe, abantu abaninzi baxhomekeke kwi-grants zabantwana, baxhomekeke kwi-grant ze-distress. Ezi grants zijika zibe yisalari yala makhaya. Xa uNERSA efaka le nkwaleko uba makunyuke ezi mali zombane, uthanda abantu bazazibhatala njani lo mbane? Ngako oko CUDM sithi makhe kuthenywe uNERSA ukuba aba bantu sengabantu balapha eSouth Africa na, ungathi kanti singabantu bamanye amazwe, yiloo nto bengenasisizi nathi. Nkosi.
Enkosi, Tata Peter. We are now moving on to Honorable Councillor Ngubane from Salga. He is on the virtual platform. Honorable Ngubane.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I'm extending warm greetings to yourselves, Honorable Chair of the NCOP, Deputy Chair of the NCOP, MECs present, Chief Whip of the NCOP, honorable members. Honorable Chair, I stand here as a spokesman of 7 municipalities in the country. From the eyes of local government sector, we are deeply troubled by the recent application of 36.1 tariff increase by Eskom. This application, if granted, will move things from boiling water to the frying pan. In light of the context of existing circumstances, this unreasonable tariff increase will be a last straw that broke the camel's back for every household, business, and municipalities. This matter demands urgent and critical attention. Honorable Chair, South Africa's citizens are already suffocating from escalating cost of living, stagnant wages, and persistent unemployment. This tariff hike, if granted, will inevitably escalate the cost of production for business and government as needs satisfying institutions. ultimately, this tariff will be shouldered by the household. This will in turn reduce buying power of household and by implication, reduce demand for goods and services in the markets. This will have adverse consequences for business in general and small business in particular. This tariff increase, if granted, will be a final nail in the coffin for the nation. As local government, the closest sphere to the people, we are directly witnessing the desperation of residents who are forced to choose between basic necessities and electricity. Besides escalating cost of electricity, Honorable Chair, it will have a multiplying effect. It will go further and have knock-on effects on the tariff of other municipal services, because electricity is a foundational ingredient of most municipal services like water provision. Mangnyuku gesi, awuzonyuka ugesi kuphela kuzonyuka kodwa yonke into, including namanzi and everything. This exorbitant increase could lead to higher rate of non-payment by customers, which in turn will constrain municipal ability to service bulk suppliers like Eskom and Water Board. Honorable Chair, this is one of the driving forces behind municipal debt to Eskom phenomenon. The cycle is vicious. The more we demand, the less people can afford to pay, leading to service delivery failures, job losses, and greater social unrest. However, Honorable Chair, as local government, we fully appreciate that Eskom must have access to reasonable, adequate finances that will enable them to deliver on their mandates. We also equally acknowledge the significance of solvency and liquidity dimension tied to Eskom to remain a going concern, to stay in business and survive. However, we're saying too, NERSA must perform this task rationally by adhering to negative obligations.
She has a nice face, or she has a nice body. They're going to vote for her on the basis of what the ANC is doing.
NERSA must not act or function as a computer. We're saying to NERSA, NERSA must not act or function as a computer into which are fed with Eskom tariff increase. NERSA must not act like a sponge outside in the summer rain, absorbing everything like clean water and dirty water. The utilities woes, among other things, but not limited to, stem from years of mismanagement, corruption, and inefficiencies. From a law of delict prisms, it is unjust to ask the people to pay for past mistakes they did not make. Transparency and accountability must underpin every decision about electricity pricing. Honorable Chairperson, there is an urgent need for a balanced approach. We call upon Parliament to call for the entire industry and government to have a meaningful conversation on how we deal with the increases that are unaffordable and how implementation of increased tariff can be done in a manner that does not cause a shock in the economic system. There is a need to simultaneously harmonize cost-reflective and affordability to enable Eskom and municipalities to get their prudent and efficient cost-reflective tariff where end user can still afford to pay. It is becoming more apparent that there's a need for innovative models, which includes some form of subsidies to be introduced by government. We call on government to fast-track the development of a tariff framework for the entire sector. We know that in developing economies, cost-reflective tariffs have resulted in a greatly reduced access because tariffs become unaffordable. We face a huge dilemma since we need to achieve a universal access and cost-reflective tariff in an economy that has more than 30% unemployment and is not performing. In lending, Honorable Chairperson, we are making two firm proposals as SALGA. A thorough review of the tariff increase to ensure that it aligns with economic realities, not divorced from economic realities, but a tariff increase that will going to align with economic realities and does not disproportionately harm the most vulnerable. Secondly, that Eskom must be held accountable by strengthening oversight mechanisms to ensure that funds generated through tariffs are used effectively and efficiently. The future of our economy, the survival of small business, and the dignity of ordinary South Africans are all at stake. Let us not turn a blind eye to their struggles. Instead, let us stand together and demand solutions that are both sustainable and just. As I conclude on this matter, I would like to put it to you, Honorable Chairperson, that this 36.1% will be a hard pill to swallow for the municipality.
If there's a need to bring other people into the meeting, they'll be brought into the meeting so that we strengthen.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. That is our submission.
The IT guys kick out Honorable Oliphant from the platform. Thank you, Mbomvu, for your articulation of the position of SALGA. The next speaker on the podium will be Honorable Dlangisa Notata from the Eastern Cape.
Honorable House Chair, Honorable Deputy Chair in absentia, Honorable Chief Whip, members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I stand here on behalf of the African National Congress, coming from the home of legends, the Eastern Cape. Dime ukuzobonakalisa lo mhlola wokuthelekiswa kujonge ecalanye yi-DA kulo mba sizoxoxa namhlanje. The DA's motion creates a false dichotomy between Eskom tariffs and municipal tariffs, with municipal tariffs completely ignored within the debate and Eskom tariffs identified as the candidates for government intervention and therefore in need for structural remedies. The glaring omission of municipal tariffs and legally substantive analytic inquiry why municipal tariffs has skyrocketed and hurt vulnerable and poor households that depend on social grants for their livelihood in systematically deliberate for various reasons. Perhaps the most important is that the DA is not genuinely concerned with the rising municipal tariffs, since rising municipal tariffs coincidentally maximizes revenues for the city of Cape Town and other countless municipalities governed by the DA. As such, rising concerns about rising municipal tariffs is not in this debate and is not seen as a constraint on
or an obstacle to pursue the maximum revenue for the DA-run municipalities. But in spite the DA's attempt to change the debate by selectively suggesting that NERSA's decision to grant Eskom's application to prospectively recover the 8.1 billion through its regulatory clearing account will effectively push vulnerable and poor households into energy poverty and inequality. The ANC firmly believes that the key to understanding the rapidly rising cost of electricity is to be found in municipal tariffs. Masingajongi calanye DA, masijonge macala nalapho nathi sihlutha khona. As discussed already in this debate, the multi-year principal determination methodology and its embedded RCA has fallen short in providing sustainable and predictable tariffs, resulting in Eskom's tariff increasing faster than the rate of inflation and consequently actively undermining the poverty and inequality reduction goals of the ANC-led government's National Development Plan. Similarly, the nature of the tariffs setting methodology aimed at satisfying the conditions set for the purpose of regulating municipal tariff is enmeshed with shortcomings, thereby prohibiting NERSA from adequately achieving the government's lofty goals, namely setting stable municipal tariffs and balancing between affordable electricity and cost-reflecting tariffs. Historically, NERSA's approach to setting municipal electricity tariffs has taken benchmarking and percentage guideline increase, in which the regulator uses guideline increase and municipal tariffs benchmarks to determine standard percentage tariff increases across all municipal distributors. This approach, dependent on Eskom's approved revenue allowance and retail tariff structural adjustment, has enabled municipalities to generate super revenues through their electricity tariffs. Yoke lo DA ingathethi nothetha ngayo because bayatyeba ngayo. Nabanye ke aba bakuthi abema apha bajonge calanye bajonge uNERSA bayiyeke inyaniso apha ikhoyo. House Chair, obviously the relocation of the free basic electricity subsidy, which has a stronger pro-poor incidence, can make high municipal tariffs less painful and harmful to the vulnerable and poor household connected to the grid. The net effect of the FBE subsidy will undoubtedly reduce the share of electricity in vulnerable and poor households' expenditure. Thereby, these households from fundamentally choosing between which trade-offs to make amongst multiple competing goals, notable food and transport. More crucially, the FBE subsidy can reverse widespread electricity connections in vulnerable and poor households due to the non-payment of accounts and high rates of illegal connections, not to mention ameliorate widespread protest in poor areas about unaffordable electricity. Ixesha lam liyandidla, House Chair. But more crucially, municipalities that failed to provide cost of supply studies will not implement any NERSA-approved tariff increases, thus negatively impacting on their sustainability as Eskom increases on municipalities has taken effect. Compound unaffordable municipal tariffs under the new methodology regime is the levying of the surcharge on municipal electricity tariffs. Municipal distributors levy the surcharge to generate a surplus to fund future capital expenditure or to cross-subsidize the cost of providing another services. Although, of course, the surcharge is the safest and most effective way to accomplish a surplus for municipalities, it constitutes a double charge on vulnerable and poor households, as the direct and indirect costs of providing electricity are recouped through municipal tariffs. As my time is running fast, in conclusion, House Chair, the Ministry of Electricity and Energy, in consent with the National Treasury and the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, must implore municipalities to roll out the FBE subsidy, as it has the benefit of hedging vulnerable and poor households against the escalating electricity tariffs in general and municipal tariffs in particular. Furthermore, the surcharge requires rethinking, as the way it is currently implemented is self-defeating, since it does not adhere to the pay principle, which requires that beneficiaries of a service pay in line with their income generating capacity to ensure equity. Chair, mabayeke ukujonga calanye apha. Mayicace into yoba sinezinto ezimbini ezonyusa umbane apha. Sino NERSA, sino municipal tariffs. So masithethe sijonge macala omabini ukwenzela into yoba lento ingathi sijongene nabantu abasokolayo CDA sibe singenaxesha labo. Sijonge okungena kuthi nge-municipal tariffs. Masingayenzi because ayisincedisi ibetha abantu bakuthi abahluphekileyo. So ndithi ke ekugqibeleni masithethe sijonge macala onke. Ndiyabulela.
No, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Notata. The next speaker who's going to take the platform is going to be Honorable Mulapisi, the MEC for Cooperative Governance, Human Settlements and Traditional Affairs. Bukoni Bupirima. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, honorable members, MECs, councillors, present here. Honorable Chair, as part of the ANC 2024 election manifesto, we presented to South Africa and her people a cogent plan to respond to the prevailing conditions of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. We stand here today to confirm to all and sundry that we remain committed to the commitment that we have made during our elections campaign. Chair, the plan we presented to our people anchored on 6 priorities, which have been accepted by all parties of the Government of National Unity. Key among these priorities is priority number 3, which focuses on tackling poverty and the high cost of living. We made an undertaking to maintain and expand subsidies, basic services like water, houses for indigent people in municipalities, and assess and review administrative and regulated tariffs, including electricity pricing policy and water policy. To put this into the context, government is funding free basic services to just over 11 million households. This enables poor people to access electricity, water, sanitation, and other services. Therefore, Honorable Chair, it is important to understand that our conviction lies primarily in the making life easier and worthwhile for the poor and vulnerable in our society. According to President Madamela Ramaphosa, and I quote, through an integrated and comprehensive system of social support, we are not only meeting our collective responsibility to the most vulnerable in society, we are also investing in our country's future, close quote. We understand, Honorable Chair, as young Marxist scholar contends, and I quote, a struggle for a just society proper must start from the everyday realities of ordinary people and these are everyday realities, close quote. The debate this afternoon, first and foremost, should consider the realities of the ordinary people. If I were to respond to the question of what are the realities of South Africa, I would respond by saying South Africa in general and consumers in particular face a massive burden due to high cost of living. Our people live in poverty. The cost of electricity impacts very negatively on small, medium, and large business. Honorable Chair and honorable members, Section 154 of the Constitution laid the foundation for the cooperative government by requiring both national and provincial government to support and strengthen the capacity to manage their own affairs, to exercise their own affairs, to exercise their powers, and to perform their function. This includes support to municipalities to ensure the provision and access to sustainable and uninterrupted services. In the year 2000, government announced the provision of the free basic services as part of a comprehensive social security framework that support the country's poor population. The free basic services are administered by local government or our municipalities, which affords poor household a portion of municipal services free every month, thus including the 50 kilowatts of free basic electricity. Be that as it may, I must indicate that we have realized that this program is not being fully operationalized, with a wide disjuncture between the population data determined for the allocation of equitable share as per the DORA and that of the Municipal Indigent Register. To mention just a few notable factors in relation to the failure to administer the FBE program correctly, the definition of poor household differs from one municipality to another. Poor households are largely concentrated in rural areas with no infrastructure and are not registered for indigent. As a result, lack of human resources in municipalities for a better and more structured coordination of the program, collection or non-collection of the FBE's token in Eskom service. This is prevalent in the rural areas due to several factors, including the following: lack of awareness of the FBE by community members in terms of the technical aspect of the FBE, that is, the need to buy electricity every month in order to get the FBE token. The token get to be forfeited if not claimed. Spaza vendors machine not linked to Eskom. As a result, when communities buy electricity, they are not able to get their free token. Most of the municipality reference indigent household as those with municipal accounts. The registration of indigent is done as an event, and on the day-to-day, communities are not able to register due to many factors, that is absence of direct contact, unit and warm bodies within municipalities, inability to travel to municipal offices to register, lack of registration points in communities and across all wards. These are some of the things that we need to discuss as we respond to these critical challenges. Noting the above in relation to the FBE program, we agree fully with the Minister of Energy and Electricity, Comrade Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, when he says it would be possible to partially insulate the poor from electricity price hikes through the various interventions. The failure by some of our programs lead to inhuman decision by authorities such as NERSA with a negative impact to our poor communities. We must refuse to further harm the poor. As a Department of Cooperative Governance, Human Settlement and Traditional Affairs in the Northwest, will continue to implore the effective implementation of the FBE program in terms of Section 227 of the Constitution. Local government is entitled to an equitable share of nationally raised revenue to enable it to provide basic services and perform its allocated functions. It is apparent that millions of people do not benefit from the program, albeit they qualify, and also thereby resulting in hikes aimed at further sinking the poor down to the poverty continuation. If we are serious about addressing the injustice of the past, we really need to look at the approaches that are beneficial to the people. The NERSA should not mitigate its challenges by compromising the people of the country in general and the poor in particular. We have taken an oath to uphold the Constitution, and we should do always so in our respective deployment. As COCTA, as I conclude, will continue to support and lobby municipalities to explore rolling out other forms of alternative energy. As I conclude, Chairperson, the ANC is acutely aware of the strain this has placed on our people under, and we will not relent in our fight to reduce this cost of living. I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Matisi.
Sali.
The next speaker on the podium will be Honorable Mayor, the MEC for Agriculture, Economic Development and Tourism in the Western Cape. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and honorable members in this House. Thank you for this opportunity to speak in this House. This is the upper house of Parliament, which is an important house because you represent the people of your various provinces. Thank you for the Democratic Alliance for sponsoring this debate. It is not only an important debate, it is a debate of national importance. Members of this House have two distinct responsibilities. Firstly, to support or amend legislation, and secondly, to protect the citizens of your respective provinces. People of your province want to hear where you stand in this debate. All of us were involved in the election 6 months ago on the 29th of May, and we have all witnessed in this House the suffering of people across South Africa. People are genuinely suffering, as pointed out during this debate. The price of food is rising, and now we are confronted with a 40% electricity tariff increase. This increase is unaffordable and it's killing our economy. Since 1994, electricity has increased by 1,700%. Skande. For the last 30 years, Eskom has punished the citizens of South Africa. We all know what happened at Eskom. In short, it was fraud, corruption, and maladministration. People are experiencing extreme poverty. The vulnerable, the working class, and the middle class are suffering. People need help because they cannot afford it. Businesses need help because they cannot afford it. The working class need help because they cannot afford it. The middle class need help because they cannot afford it anymore. It is now a daily struggle in South Africa. I met a businesswoman in Drakensberg and she said to me, Minister, Eskom is killing my business. The hairdressers cannot afford a 40% tariff increase. The pie shop, the bakery, the mechanic, the dressmaker, the hairdressers, the butchers, the abattoir, the coffee shop, nobody can afford this 40% tariff increase. The guy selling fish, fresh fish, needs help because he cannot afford this 40% tariff increase. The people that suffers the most are in the townships. The time to act is now. We must stop this increase now. NERSA is holding public hearings as we speak, as we debate today. Chair, and this debate taking place now in this House is providing both the context and the content for the public hearings. The context is the following: slow economic growth, high levels of unemployment, high input costs like electricity. Businesses are suffering while inflation is 4%. Eskom's tariff increase is 40%, 10 times the size of the current inflation rate. Shame on Eskom. This House must be united in our opposition
to this tariff increase. We stand together in this crucial matter. I listened to earlier debate in this House. People have spoken against this tariff increase. We are now united because the government of national unity, Honorable Chair, has 3 priorities. Number 1, inclusive economic growth. This tariff increase will kill inclusive economic growth. The second priority of the GNU is to reduce poverty. Eskom's tariff increase will increase poverty. And the third priority of the government of national unity is to build a capable state. If you increase electricity 1,722%, you are not a capable state. We are now in this trouble because Eskom is not a capable state. In short, honorable members, Eskom is violating the 3 priorities of the government of national unity. And I now call on the government of national unity to take extra steps against Eskom. Eskom's proposal is working against all the principles of the GNU. Honorable members, we must protect the vulnerable and the cost of living. In the Democratic Alliance, under the DA, in the Western Cape, we put 7.1 billion rand aside to protect the citizens. We have also made provision for generators for every single municipality so that sewers don't run in water. We are currently using 4,000 megawatt from Eskom. We have a plan to generate 7,500 megawatt. In other words, more than what we are currently using from Eskom. And so, honorable members, we have already put 2,000 megawatt in the procurement. We have already secured 743 megawatt. Things are working. Every single municipality in the Western Cape are working. Midvaal in Gauteng is formally proceeding with plans to procure independent power producers and get rid of Eskom. A council resolution is already on the table. And so, honorable members, I see that none of you, I see all of you were born after 1994, before 1994. Honorable members, this was your food in 1994. Honorable Chair, this was the food in 1994. And today, it is a shame because this is no longer the food of 1994, and Eskom is the reason why this is now happening. And this increase is now taking away. Your potato will no longer be in your plate because of this increase. Your tomato will no longer be in your plate because of Eskom. Eskom is eating from your plate. 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 You won't see any of these, even your nyama won't be in your plate. Don't worry, your food. And so, I am telling you,
Honorable Chairperson.
I am now telling you.
Sorry, there's a point of order. Can you resume your seat? Over to you.
Honorable Chair, arise.
There's a point of order here.
Arise in terms of Rule 69.
Yes.
Is it parliamentary to bring food in the House?
All right. No. Honorable Chief Whip. Honorable Chief Whip, your point of order is sustained. You cannot bring food in the house and eat it. So, you cannot bring food in the house, please.
I'm not eating. It's a demonstration.
Actually, you must get permission to demonstrate.
Which rule? I know the rules. Which rule?
No, I'm telling you.
Demonstration. Thank you, Honorable Chair. This is simply a demonstration. I thought the intellect in this House will allow me to proceed. So this is no more in your plate. Honorable Chair, this is no more in your plate because Eskom is now taking food from your table. Honorable members, there will be no more left. after this 40% increase, this is what you're going to eat. Eskom is taking food from your table. This is the sad reality. Honorable Chairperson, this 40% increase will lead to starvation, hunger, and poverty. I cannot imagine the depth of people's problems coming when this happens. This House has now a moral responsibility. You represent citizens in your province. You have a moral duty, a moral responsibility to stand up and say no more suffering for the people of my province in the Eastern Cape, in Mpumalanga, in KwaZulu-Natal, in the Free State, in the Western Cape, in the Eastern Cape, as well as Limpopo, and where else? And the Northern Cape. We want no more poverty. 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 No more
What actually
poverty.
is going on
No
in the
more
House?
poverty. And so, Honorable Chair, we are members of this House. We have a constitutional responsibility. We are adults. People are suffering. Let us take our responsibility serious. And so stop Eskom. If you stop Eskom, Honorable Chair, you can put food at least back on the... If we stop Eskom, you can put zonke back in the plate. At least you can have a potato back on your plate. If we stop Eskom, we can have a tomato on your plate. If we stop Eskom, we have some lekker goeders. Let us get Eskom. If you stop Eskom, people will be able to eat. Let us put food on your table. Let us create jobs. And say to Eskom, I now formally propose that this House adopt a resolution to reject Eskom's tariff increase. I thank you.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Mayor. The next speaker.
Honorable Chair, the Western Cape supports that suggestion. Thank you.
Who gave you the right to rise? No, you're out of order, Mr. Badenhorst. You cannot.
Can we have the food? We are hungry. Can we have the food?
Can we have the food? Being recognized. Please respect the rules which are always flashing around. You cannot speak in the House here without being recognized. You only rise on a point of order. That was not a point of order. You only rise on a point of order or when you are called by the chairperson to come to the podium. I didn't call you. Please. Yeah. Rule 69. Rule 69. You can only rise on a point of order. That was not a point of order, Honorable Pat. That was not a point of order, Honorable Badenhorst. Please don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah. The next speaker is going to be Honorable Tomo, the MEC for Public Works, Roads and Transport from Mpumalanga. Over to you, sir, on the visual platform.
No, thanks a lot, Chair. Let me take this opportunity to greet yourself and the House Chair, Mayor Refilwe Mtsweni-Tsipane, the esteemed members of the National Council of Provinces, ministers and deputy ministers, MECs, and all permanent and special delegates who are part of this session. My greetings to all of you. Honorable Chairperson, today's debate on the significant increase in electricity cost resulting from NERSA decision to grant Eskom application to retrospectively raise charges alongside the critical issues of safeguarding the most vulnerable in our society from the growing cost of living is both timely and necessary. It provides us with an opportunity to engage with this complex and urgent issue with the gravity demands. Honorable Chairperson, at the core of this discussion lies a challenging balance between the fiscal and social equity, which are two critical elements that intersect to impact the lives of ordinary South Africans. This talks to how Eskom needs to adjust its annual operating cost emanating from production and distribution costs against what its consumers are willing to pay. Honorable Chairperson, a pragmatic, balanced approach is crucial in ensuring the continued stability of the grid without further exacerbating the financial strain on our poorest and most vulnerable people. It is also important to acknowledge that the current public discourse surrounding Eskom application for a 36% tariff increase is generating considerable concern to our people. This impediment hike stirred an unease among the people, particularly as they face the challenges of slow economic growth, rising unemployment, and escalating living costs. In such an environment, an increase in electricity tariffs at this scale is bound to ignite widespread public dissatisfaction. Furthermore, while Eskom is tasked with maintaining and upgrading the electricity grid to meet the ever-growing demand, it does so under the additional pressure of mounting debt. As of March 2024, municipal debts to Eskom had reached an alarming 74 billion, yet Eskom is still expecting to produce electricity, ensure its continued delivery, and invest in its future development despite this financial constraint. This represents a stark contradiction in the supply and demand equation that we must address. Honorable Chairperson and members, the ANC-led government remains steadfast in commitment to improving the quality of life of our people. Under this government, the access to electricity has been extended to over 2 million households, with a further 10 million indigent households receiving free basic electricity as part of critical social safety net. This initiative stands as a testament to our commitment to bringing the infrastructure gap created by the legacy of apartheid. The efforts to electrify both urban and rural households were made on the foundational principle of correcting past inequalities and ensuring equal access to essential services. These monumental achievements, however, have been significantly undermined by the persistent challenges of load shedding. Despite these setbacks, our government did not succumb to these challenges. Instead, we confronted them with decisive actions. The appointment of Dr. Jose Nzora Makupa as Minister of Electricity, tasked with leading the National Energy Crisis Committee, was part of a broader strategy to take decisive actions to address the energy crisis. This was further bolstered by the launch of the Comprehensive Energy Action Plan in July 2022, which provides both immediate relief and long-term energy security. It is heartening to indicate that through the diligent implementation of these plans, the country has achieved a significant milestone with 230 consecutive days without load shedding as of the 30th of November 2024. This accomplishment defies the skeptic who suggests that the minister's call to end load shedding was nothing more than an electoral ploy. Honorable Chairperson, the positive outcomes speak for themselves, and we intend to maintain this record. It is with this success in mind that I appeal to the opposition not to succumb to sensational and negativity about the energy crisis. It is neither helpful nor productive to undermine the collective efforts made to ensure stable electricity provision. Regarding the rising electricity cost and Eskom subsequent request from NERSA,
Vanaand voor die tyd. Nou wil hulle dit vir my.
On the platform, can the ICT kick that person out? Can the ICT kick W out of the visual platform, please?
Should I continue, Chair?
You can continue, Honorable MEC.
Thanks a lot. We are guided by our party position, which seeks to provide clarity that the current electricity price and expected increase are unsustainable. As a responsible government, we pledge to support measures that protect the poor and most vulnerable through targeted initiatives, including increasing the budget to cater for free electricity for indigent beneficiaries. Moreover, we stand firmly behind the Electricity Regulation Amendment Bill signed by the President, which seeks to create greater competition in the energy sector, reduce energy costs, attract new investment in energy generation. We are confident, Chair, that through these measures, we can strike the right balance, ensuring that Eskom receives the necessary compensation for its role in the generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity, while also addressing the challenges posed by the municipal debt. Unfortunately, Honorable Chair, the ongoing bailouts from the National Treasury, though helpful in the short term, cannot be seen as a long-term solution. We need more sustainable approach. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chair, these challenges are not somewhat. We must continue to work towards sustaining the performance of the national grid. In addition, we must tackle the widespread theft of electricity by criminal element commonly known as izinyoka, which contributes to the depletion of resources and drives up cost for honest consumers. The recent request for the Minister of Electricity for the South African Local Government Association to intensify training on improving meter readings is a step in the right direction. We also need to strengthen our public participation platforms to engage communities in reporting crimes and illegal connection. Honorable Chairperson, we commend the tremendous work done by the current Eskom board and reaffirm our full support for their ongoing effort. It is after all the government's responsibility to strike a delicate balance supporting Eskom in its electricity generation efforts while ensuring that all citizens, particularly the poor, can get access and benefit from affordable electricity without facing undue financial strain. In conclusion, Chair, while the challenges before us are significant, I am confident that our government will continue to take the necessary actions to ensure the sustainability of the national grid, stabilize energy supply, and protect our most vulnerable citizens from the escalating cost of living. As the well-known economist and prominent scholar, Professor Thandika Mkandaweri argues in his writings on Africa development, and I quote, "The state in Africa must be viewed not as an impediment to development, but as a necessary tool for fostering development, reducing inequality, and addressing the historical injustices faced by the poor and marginalized," unquote. Honorable Chairperson, this perspective highlights the critical role that the state must play in economic transformation and social equity, ensuring that the needs of the poor and vulnerable are met as we work towards a more inclusive society. We remain committed in advancing policies that promote inclusive growth and equitable access to resources, ensuring that all citizens, especially those in need, are empowered and uplifted. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable MEC, for your articulation. The next speaker is going to be Honorable Telezi, the MEC for Kokta from KwaZulu-Natal. Over to you, sir, on the visual platform.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and esteemed members of the NCOP. It is indeed an honor to be afforded once again the opportunity to address this august House on this very important matter under discussion, which affects the core of our communities. It is a matter of very grave concern which affects every sphere of our society. The significant increase in electricity costs resulting from NERSA's decision to grant Eskom's application to retrospectively raise charges. This decision, while addressing the financial sustainability of Eskom, has far-reaching negative implications, particularly for local government, which is already grappling under the enormous financial challenges which besets the sphere of government. As the sphere of government closest to the people, local government plays a crucial role in delivering essential services. However, the financial strain on municipalities has been exacerbated by the increased electricity costs. Many municipalities are already struggling with substantial Eskom debt owed not only by domestic and commercial consumers, but also by various government departments. And this debt hampers the ability of these municipalities to provide basic services and maintain infrastructure. The retrospective increase in electricity charges will further burden these municipalities and would lead to an escalation of debt levels. This situation is untenable, as previous speakers have outlined, Honorable Chairperson, and places our municipalities in a precarious position. They are now forced to balance the need to raise revenue with the imperative to provide affordable services to their communities. It is clear that the current funding model for local government is inadequate and insufficient, and this decision to grant Eskom this retrospective increase compounds the problem that municipalities are already facing due to a skewed funding formula which does not work in favor of municipalities, and therefore forcing them to rely
Honorable Shenge, you are
on
cut off.
revenue from
Continue, sir.
forcing municipalities to survive on revenue raised by electricity has become unsustainable and requires urgent review. And that is why we are calling for a comprehensive review of the funding framework to ensure that municipalities have the resources they need to operate effectively. As we navigate these challenges, it is imperative that we implement measures to protect the most vulnerable in our society from the ever-increasing cost of living. It is our view that this decision by NERSA places an undue burden on the most vulnerable of our society who are already grappling with ever-rising costs of living. And therefore, the indigent households, which constitutes a large part of our society, are going to be placed under enormous burden. It is therefore inconceivable that we should allow our people the people of the country, especially the poor, should not be punished in order to rescue Eskom. These increases are unaffordable and will force our people to choose between having food or having electricity. And this tariff increase makes it even harder for our people just to go through a day. In conclusion, Mr. Chairperson, while the financial stability of Eskom is important, we must not lose sight of the broader impact of these decisions on local government and on our communities. I therefore urge this Honorable House to consider the plight of our people, the plight of our municipalities, and to support a comprehensive review of the funding model for local government by rejecting this increase imposed by NERSA. Together, however, we should pursue solutions that balance the need for financial sustainability of our state-owned enterprises, together with the imperative to provide affordable and reliable services to all South Africans. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Chenge, for your input. The next speaker on the who's going to come to the podium is Honorable Skerkochal from the Free State.
Sorry, Chairperson, I don't have any toys, but I'll have toys in my speech. All right. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, and most importantly, the hardworking South Africans who bear the brunt of Eskom's exorbitant electricity extortion. I speak not just as a member as the Democratic Alliance, but as a member of the millions of South Africans who are feeling the economic weight of skyrocketing electricity prices. These price hikes are not just a burden, they are an attack on the very people who wake up every day with dreams in their hearts to contribute to this nation we love. We as South Africans, black, white, colored, Indian, who worked tirelessly for decades, particularly after 1994, to forge a better South Africa. But Chairperson, as I listened to the debates this week, one thing became glaringly clear. Bad policy, or worse, the catastrophic mismanagement of policy has left South Africans in crisis. The consequences are not theoretically. They are real and painful. It's heartbreaking to see the parties who are blind to their own mistakes and unable to accept the responsibility for the harm they have caused. As Jomo Kenyatta, the first president of Kenya, wisely said, our mistakes are the stepping stones to our future's success, provided we learn from them and do not repeat them. This is an important lesson to us all, especially to the ANC, who would tragically remain stuck in the past, unwilling to face the truth of their own failures. Comrades, we must learn from our mistakes. If we are to have any chance of a brighter future. So take my GNU hand and let's build together. To the camouflage clan, honestly, your wardrobe might be the smartest move yet. It helps hide you from law enforcement, given your leadership's brazen criminality. To the PA or the AI speech, maybe consider holding an elective conference because your anointed leaders may soon lose his divine flavor. And of course, the populist circus, clown and red, your theatrics may dazzle, but cannot rewrite history. Follow me instead to provide a history lesson. Chairperson, I personally cannot and never want to make it seem that I will ever truly feel, comprehend, and understand what black, colored, Indian, or then classified non-whites went through during apartheid. But when I decided to join politics, I made sure I joined a party that was on the right side of South African politics. And I feel that I'm compelled to correct a narrative that distorts South African history. Let me remind you of the history of the Democratic Alliance, a party that has fought consistently for equality and justice. In 1959, the Progressive Party was formed to confront apartheid. In 1961, Helen Suzman stood alone in Parliament opposing apartheid. In 1977, the Progressive Federal Party became the official opposition to the apartheid government. On 7 October 1977, Helen Zille exposed the death of Steve Biko with the headlines and the Brown Watermelon. On 1989, the Progressive Federal Party became the Democratic Party, still standing in opposition. In 1919, the Democratic Party helped negotiate the interim constitution, paved the way for the new democracy in South Africa. In 1999, the Democratic Party became the official opposition, representing the hopes and the dreams of millions of South Africa. In 2000, the DA was formed, making a new chapter in the fight for the rest of South Africa.
Honorable Chair.
And in
There's a point of order. Can you take a seat here? I rise on a point of order in terms of Rule 69 in conjunction with Rule 51, the irrelevance. History that honorable member is narrating has nothing to do with the topic at hand. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Can rule on that.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Chief Whip. I think, so sorry. I am an Honorable Rider, please. There's only one presiding officer now here. No. Honorable Chief Whip, your point of order is not sustained. Your point of order is not sustained. I think that it is the issue of debate. No. That's what is happening. We can continue.
Thank you, Chairperson. And when the new National Party prepared its principles and joined the ANC, the DA stood firm. Let it be known, Chairperson, that the DA has never supported apartheid or its policies. It has never been complicit in the injustices that tore this country apart. And yes, we are not perfect. No party is. But we've made mistakes, and some of our individuals has failed to live up to our standards. But we are a party that deals decisively to those that stray away from principles. And we are a party that will always put South Africa first. We acknowledge the brutal reality of apartheid and colonialism, acknowledge the damage that it did to our country and to our people. But we must also acknowledge that living in the past will not bring the future we deserve. We cannot afford to remain trapped in the cycles of blame and resentment. As much as we must confront the injustice of the past, we must also look forward. A future where South Africa rises to the beacon of hope in Africa. The debate in this House should be focused on the subjects and not the race baiting that we saw the past week. Chairperson, the issue at hand today is electricity prices, and make no mistake, it's not just a question of power, it's the question of dignity, opportunity, and justice. The tariff hikes are seeing today nearly 33% in the last 2 years. Another 40% increase on its way are devastating for South Africans, especially for the vulnerable. The families consuming 600 kilowatts per month, this means they now pay 1,600 per month, and those exceeding the threshold are forced to pay more. This is simply unaffordable. The price hikes are pushing families to the brink. They're forcing South Africans to cut back on basic needs, food, education, and healthcare. Households have to turn to unsafe alternatives like paraffin, candles, increasing fire hazards. Eskom has created a new ill to the society: energy poverty. Small businesses, the backbone of our country, are disappropriately burdened by the rising electricity prices. Manufacturers who power our economy are losing competitively daily. This results in job losses, business closures, and rising unemployment. Let's not forget the ripple effect on prices increases. At the cost of electricity prices, the price of goods and services, from transport to food production. Inflation increases. Purchasing power declines. The economy stagnates. That follows creates a vicious cycle that perpetuates poverty and inequality. South Africans cannot afford this. Load shedding has only exacerbated this crisis. The frustration and the anger of ordinary people have led to protests, strikes, a reflection of social unrest bubbling just beneath the surface. South Africans are fed up with mismanagement of Eskom, corruption, and the failure to provide reliable, affordable energy. Chairperson, the DA solutions are grounded in evidence in real work success. Our approach is a practical, result-oriented, and above all, people-centered. We must liberalize the economy sector. The DA believes that Eskom's monopoly must be broken. We must allow municipalities and private producers to generate and produce electricity independently. This will create competition, reduce costs, increase supply stability. The DA-led City of Cape Town is already leading the way in this approach. The result speaks for itself: lower energy costs, fewer power outages, and more sustainable energy future. We must professionalize Eskom. We cannot continue to allow corruption and mismanagement to drain the resources needed to keep the lights on. Transparent government, accountable leadership without cadres are key to delivering reliable energy to South Africans. We must protect the most vulnerable. The DA advocates for subsidies for low-income households to cushion the impact of rising electricity costs. We cannot believe in incentivizing electricity-efficient appliances and which will help to reduce the overall demand. We have seen in DA-governed municipalities like George that program, such as solar panel grants for households and small business, are already providing success. We must invest in renewable energy, moving towards green, clean solutions. We can create jobs in the green economy while reducing South Africa's reliance on the vital fossil fuel prices. The future is renewable, and the time to South Africa embrace is now. Chairperson, in closing, the electricity crisis in South Africa is not just about energy, it's about equity, it's about justice, it's about ensuring all South Africans, regardless race, class, or background, have.
Excuse me, on what are you raising, Honorable?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to check if Honorable Member can take a question.
Sorry, Chairperson, I don't have a big enough whiteboard to draw all the pictures to give my answers, so the answer is no.
Cannot, he's not going to take a question. Can you resume your seat? Sorry.
Or background, have access to resources they need to live with dignity. It's about a future where energy is affordable, reliable, and sustainable, that ensures an affordable energy is a right, not a privilege. Honorable Chairperson, the time for change is now. Let us rise to the occasion, restore the hope and the dignity and the opportunity that all South Africans deserve. Let us put power back in the hands and keep the lights on. I thank you.
All right, thank you, Honorable Doc. The next speaker who is on the visual platform is Honorable Mkwena, who had a technical problem earlier when she was supposed to speak. She's here. Over to you, Honorable Mkwena from the visual platform.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to you, Honorable Chair, honorable members. Today, we find ourselves grappling with what I can only describe as a national crisis of epic proportions. It's bad enough that our lights are off half the time, but now we are expecting South Africans to dig even deeper into the pockets and to pay for darkness. These retroactive price hikes are more than just numbers on a bill. They are a financial hammer blow to millions of households already struggling to make ends meet. And let's not forget who bears the brunt of the burden. The most vulnerable in our society, the poorest of the poor, who already allocate a significant chunk of their income to energy expenses and now are being told to pay for even more. What's left for food, for healthcare, and for basics? Eskom's coal addiction is costing this country far more than it's worth. The outrageous price Eskom pays for coal are driving energy costs through the roof. And who's profiting from this? That's what we'd like to know. The MK Party proposes two specific measures: the establishment of a formal inquiry to investigate the underlying causes of exorbitant coal prices in the market. This inquiry should involve a thorough analysis of the coal supply chain, including production costs, transportation, and any market monopolies that may be contributing to the inflated prices. Who exactly is gaining from these exorbitant prices at the cost of our fiscal? The Department of Mineral Resources and Energy needs to consider also the implementation of regulatory measures for coal pricing. Such regulations would aim to ensure that coal prices are competitive and reasonable, thereby mitigating the financial burden on Eskom. But honorable members, let's not pretend this electricity crisis exists in a vacuum. It's just another symptom of a deeper systematic rot plaguing our country. It's the same story we've been hearing since apartheid, dressed up now in new excuses. And our people are still left out in the cold, literally. As businesses struggle to stay afloat, they are unable to offer competitive wages, leading to a stagnation of income growth and a further reduction of quality life for many South Africans. It is crucial that we take decisive action to protect and support SMMEs, ensuring that they are able to thrive, create jobs, and drive economic growth while South Africa desperately needs to grow. Without their success, we risk further deepening poverty and inequality in our society. Currently, an astonishing 1.1 million is owed by both private sector companies and public enterprises, illustrating the widespread nature of this issue. Additionally, municipalities across South Africa collectively owe a staggering 81.7 million to Eskom.
Airports companies are welcome you to international airport. For your safety, transport services. These do not accept.
And what about, I don't know who's in the background, Chairperson.
Continue, Honorable Mkwena.
And what about the so-called free basic electricity program, a mere 50 to 60 kilowatts per month for those who qualify, when the average household needs 3 times that? It's laughable and unsustainable to give them that much. We need to expand this program, and it's not negotiable if we want to ease the burden on struggling families. Now let's talk about the dangers of leaving people without affordable electricity. Families are relying on candles, paraffin, wood, and are constantly at risk of fires and health issues. And yet we're supposed to clap for 200 days without load shedding. In many constituencies, what they now call load reduction means power cuts every morning, every evening, and sometimes for days. It is really an insult of our intelligence as South Africans, people who know the difference between spin and reality. Municipalities too are crumbling under the weight of skyrocketing electricity costs. When we pay more or they pay more for bulk electricity, they pass it on to customers who can't afford it. Public services are cut, infrastructure collapses, and communities are left to fend for themselves. And let's not forget the small renewable energy producers, the unsung heroes trying to steer us towards a sustainable future. Instead of supporting them, we're drowning them in grid charges and red tape. It's really a disgrace. We need policies that empower these innovators, not punish them. Allow households and small producers to sell excess energy back to the grid and streamline license for renewable projects. The future is green. Let's stop treating it like it's an optional extra. Municipalities also bear the consequences of these rising costs, as I said earlier, and it's significant for our consumers. Honorable members, this is about more than electricity. It's about justice, equity, and the dignity of every South African. And the Mkhonto weSizwe Party, we demand bold, decisive action to regulate coal, expand the free basic electricity program, support renewable energy, and put an end to this endless cycle of inequality. Abantu bethu bahlupheka. Angeke sivume baloko beqhubeka behlukumezeka ngalendlela abahlukumezeka ngayo. We call for government to put its people first, or else these foundational inequalities will continue to stifle our nation's growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mkwena. The next speaker on the podium is going to be Honorable Dlamini from the Free State.
Honorable House Chair, all protocol observed from the beginning of the debates, indeed respected. Exposing selection bias and political opportunism. Why the DA conclusions generated from grossly unrealistic assumptions cannot, as a matter of fact, be possible correct. From the very start, the ANC has criticized the escalating electricity tariffs from various less pedestrian reasons and has suggested amendments or alternatives.
Chair.
The point of order, over to you.
Yes, thank you. I want to stand on Rule 47 in terms of what Honorable Mukai is doing to the Speaker.
Right. No, Honorable Manani, so your point of order is sustained. Your point of order is sustained. You must stop doing that, Honorable Mukai.
In its diagnostic analysis, the ANC found that Eskom and municipal electricity tariffs approved by the National Electricity Energy Regulator of South Africa, NERSA, condemn our democracy to an entirely bleak destiny. This debate occurred in the National Assembly,
And the same debate is now brought here. And the ANC is still holding the same position on the subject matter in this August House. The debate is now restricted to the recovery by Eskom of 8 billion, retrospectively due to the shortfall in revenue allowance. And this occurs procedurally through the regulatory clearing account, which balances any over-recovery or under-recovery in tariffs. In this case, there was an under-recovery. This, by the way, was a decision of the court. And as parliamentarians, we need to consistently uphold the independency of the courts and judiciary. The point of departure for the ANC is that the continuous increase in the price of electricity are placing financial burden on households, with the working class and poor being most affected. The working class and poor are now facing energy poverty with less disposable income. It is to these concerns of the people that we need to address potential solutions, not point fingering on our proposal to the minister. Eskom and NERSA must be balanced, and as implementation of any proposal must not have intended consequences for the functioning of Eskom, NERSA, or municipalities. While it is now admitted in the DA camp that NERSA, once a cornerstone of the electricity market, has become a very unpleasant and inefficient regulator in the smooth functioning of the electricity market, the ANC has a different argument that is, in the main, the less concern about the so-called flagrant abuse of regulatory power in DA argument, but still logical. Nonetheless, Honorable Chair, wherein lies the problem? If the country were all buying electricity from Eskom at R1.78 per kilowatt, I suppose there will be no debate on the price of electricity. What is demonstrated is that the problem of high electricity tariffs is not an Eskom problem. It is one of municipalities which add on high margins to electricity tariffs for different reasons to cross-subsidize other activities. The ANC argues that something has gone terribly wrong with the municipal year price determination methodology, as well as it embedded the regulatory clearing account and benchmarking methodology used when setting electricity tariffs increases for Eskom and municipal distributors. The DA myopical views high electricity tariffs at only one end of the value chain and does not examine the other side, as he has vested interest in not raising the other side, given that the city of Cape Town has the highest electricity cost in this country, and opt that introduction of surcharge, which it is known is double charge for Western Cape and Tshwane residents. Tshwane, of course, is one of the DA control municipality, which owes Eskom money and is driving electricity cost high. On the other hand,
the point of order.
I just want to inquire whether this member will take a question, sir.
No, Chair, there is no time for question, it's time to debate. On the other hand, the benchmarking methodology increased municipality tariffs above cost living.
thereby unjustifiably benefiting municipal distributors like the City of Cape Town to generate super revenue from the sales of electricity and at the expense of poor and working class households. A good illustration of this, Honorable Chair, is that the City of Cape Town purchases electricity from Eskom at R1.78 and charges the poor and the working class household R3.44 per kilowatt. For the first 600.
All right, thank you. On what rule?
Rule 61B. No delegate may deliberately make a statement which the delegate knows to be false. Yes, I am.
Your point of order is not sustained. Point of debate. Over to you.
The DA notes your bias, Chair.
Honorable Badenhorst, you must never do that again. No, you'll be thrown out. You'll be thrown out. You'll be thrown out. Over to you, Honorable Dlamini.
Based on this critique, amendments of the Electricity Regulation Act and the Electricity Pricing Policy have been put forth. And in turn, amendments on these pieces of legislation.
There's a point of order.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
On what are you raising?
I rise on a point of order in terms of Rule 61, 1B. This honourable member made reference, and she said in a speech that the city of Tshwane is controlled by the DA. That is false. And I think the member should know it's false. It is controlled by the ANC.
All right. Thank you, Honorable. Thank you, Honorable Press. Your point of order is not sustained. You have a member who can respond to that. Thank you. Over to you.
Please, bias. How is this possible?
Based on this critique, amendments of the Electricity Regulation Act and the Electricity Pricing Policy have been put forth. And in turn, amendments to these pieces of legislation will serve as a guide to NERSA in the regulation of the electricity market in a manner that be deemed rational, thereby resulting in the predictable and stable electricity tariffs. The Electricity Regulation Act, which President Ramaphosa has signed into law recently, will bolster the NERSA's proposed interim electricity methodology predicted on 3 principles, namely activity-based costing, differential loan profiles, and marginal price tariffs. Chair, for a moment, I thought that this country is moving forward after democracy. But today, Honorable Chair, with the demonstrations and displayed that the DA put in this August House, I'm reminded, Chair, to respond as follows. If the DA honestly championing the interest of the poor, this plate demonstrated full of food today, Chair, was the land in the hands of poor.
There's a point of order. On what are you raising, Honorable Mayor?
I'm rising, Honorable Chair, in this august House.
Which rule are you rising on? No. All right. No, I'm addressing you, Honorable Mayor. I said, on what rule are you
Honorable
rising?
Speaker, I am talking to you now, but can you
What
please?
rule are you rising?
I'm now rising.
Raise the point of principle. Raise the point.
I'm Rule 69. I am.
All right. All right. These were principles. They no principle. Don't point finger at me. Don't point fingers at me, Honorable Badenhorst. You know what the English say? The English say that the emptiest vessels makes the most noise. Yes. Please don't do that. Because you are exposing yourself on something else. Yes. You are exposing yourself as if you are a fundi of the rules, whereas you are so ignorant. On what rule what you can do, Honorable Chair, you can rise on a rule. If you don't know the rule, you can raise the principle you are rising on.
I'm
Please,
raising
one of the two.
I'm raising on the principle of the matter. This is a very important house. And in this house, there's now a resolution in this house that the DA is running Tshwane, and you've ruled in that effect. Effectively, you have now reappointed Celia Brink as the mayor of Tshwane. Because you have now said the DA is running. If
no, that's not what the statement said. That's not what the you should listen properly. That's not what she said.
Is the mayor?
You wanted to reread the speech. But what you are saying is wrong. No, that is wrong. No.
Celia Brink?
Oh, that's not what she said. That's not what she said. You must listen properly. That's not what she said. She said under DA in Tshwane.
Honorable Ndise, please, you can only speak on the mic when I recognize. Honorable Mayor, your point of order is not sustained.
Chair, I respect your ruling. Thank you very much, but I will inform Celia Brink.
Over to you, Honorable Dlamini.
Chairperson.
All right, on what are you rising?
Rise on Rule 62. Chairperson, in your exchange with Honourable Badenhorst, you didn't refer to him as Honourable, and I would just like to know whether Rule 62, which refers to a delegate that may not refer to any delegate by his or her first name or last name, I would like to know whether that extends to the chair as well.
No, it's fine. I recognize that. Honourable, the Honourable Badenhorst, the so-called Honourable Badenhorst. Over to you.
Chair, the plate that was bought by DA in the house today.
Honourable Chair, I would very much like to know if the honourable member is prepared to take a very intelligent question.
All right, thank you, Honourable Mayor. I think the speaker on the podium has refused to take a question from Honourable Press. What makes you think that she's going to take it? So please take a seat.
Honourable Chair, on a matter of principle, you have now ruled on her question. She must answer the question. It is inappropriate for you to answer a question that she's supposed to. I will accept. I will accept. If she say no, I will sit down. But from the chair,
Honourable
Chair, I will accept if she say no.
Honourable Chair, I'm not taking the question.
You cannot answer a question. This house is a mockery. If you answer a question on her behalf, then this house is a mockery. I am rather than going to
do not refer to this house as a you are turning the house into a
you withdraw.
No, Chair.
You withdraw. Answer a question. She is capable to answer a question. If she tell me, if she say no, I will sit down. But this house is a mockery.
Remove him. Let him go.
This house is a mockery, and I am prepared to leave. I am prepared to leave. With this plate of food. Honourable Chair,
let him go with his rotten food.
This is a mockery. I'm happy to leave.
Let him go with his rotten food.
I'm now asking my delegates to leave with me. We leave this house.
You can all
members
go.
Of the Democratic Alliance, we
you
leave.
can go.
These people are sent by, they're representing provinces. They're representing their provinces. See in their provinces. Go.
Go with your rotten food.
I shove the placard. I said, escort the member out.
Let him go with his plastic bag.
Thank you, honorable members. Honorable Dlamini, you can go on.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. The plate is not plating. It will never plating. We knew it. Because this plate, when whites come into this country, they found it very full of land in the hands of poor and black people. And if indeed the DA is championing the interest of black people in this country, we want to see DA, Honorable Chair, championing the land question, be at the forefront. We want to do that. We want to see that. Two, if DA indeed have the interest of our people at heart, we want to see DA supporting Bella Act. Thirdly, if indeed the DA is championing the interest of poor people as they display themselves today, we want to see them championing the NHI in this country. The Minister of Electricity, Honorable Khotsenso Ramokgopa, July 29, it was on Monday, Honorable Chair, made a commitment to the citizens of this country that his department and all relevant stakeholders in the energy industry are going to ensure that these electricity hikes and the tariffs that we are talking about today indeed will find an expression, because at no point we are going to allow, as the ANC, to send our people in a deep end, whilst the cost of living, it is in this state, Chair. And the African National Congress, still the leader of the society, the African National Congress still represent the interest of the black people in this country. Hence, Honorable Chair, all the times our policies will speak to the interest of our people. Hence, Honorable Chair, the African national policies will ensure that we continuously change the lives of our people, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chairperson, the ANC, it's a democratic movement.
That's a false statement.
And we allowed everyone to be with us. And that, Chair, doesn't suggest that
Chair?
the ANC.
All right, on what are you rising?
Will the member take a question?
Are you going to take a question, Honorable?
No, it's a debating time. It's not a question and answer.
Didn't write their own speech, that's why.
Honorable Badenhorst, please, when the chairperson has made a ruling, you must respect that. You can only speak when you are recognized by the chairperson or when you make a point of order. So your last gesture is wrong. Over to you, Honorable Dlamini.
The truth is very painful, especially when you think that you are speaking the truth and you are championing the truth only to find that you are doing the opposite. It's very painful. You cannot stomach it. Honorable Chair, the African National Congress will continuously, under the leadership of Minister and the collective, ensure that the electricity hikes, it is indeed find expression. And further to that, Chairperson, at the same time, we are going to make sure as the ANC that the decisions of the court are protected in this land. Thirdly, Chairperson, the ANC is going to make sure that the high cost of living also find an expression. This is also emphasized and overemphasized even in this house by the President of this country, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa. He explicitly explained the issue of how his cabinet, which include, of course, DA, will tackle the issue of high cost of living. Now, we are expecting, Chairperson, because the DA is in the GNU to come up with solutions to the economic challenges that we are confronted with. Not unless what is happening, Honorable Chair, in the city of Cape Town in terms of electricity, it's a worse madness than the one that Honorable Ryder referred to earlier on in his speech. In closing, Chair, we are not going to be defocused as the ANC. We are not going to be deterred. We are resolute in terms of making sure that we change the lives of our people in this country. And no amount of intimidation and full plates will make us to lose the focus, because indeed the full plate was not full enough for the owner of the plate to listen. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, honorable members. Thank you, honorable members. The House is in order. The next speaker on the podium is Honorable Ryder, the sponsor of the motion. He must respond.
Thank you very much, House Chair. I must say, I'm actually astounded with what I'm going to be covering now. But first of all, let me, House Chair, thank all the members that took part in this afternoon's debate. It was a little more robust than I expected, but I do want to appreciate all contributions. So thank you to those that took time to either write speeches or read out speeches that had been written for them. House Chair, I think the Chief Whip has got an incredibly difficult job, because honestly, I thought that this would be the easiest sweep that I've ever done in my political career. I thought we'd all be on the same page, because anybody that thinks that a 40% increase in electricity tariffs can be justified in any way is clearly living in a fool's paradise. This is unaffordable, and to stand up here and defend that is unconscionable and should never be allowed. Chief Whip, you have your work cut out for you, because quite frankly, your minister, Minister Ramakgopa, our minister in the government of national unity, has come out himself and said he does not support the increase as it stands before us. So, Chief Whip, it appears your party is quite divided on this matter. Your MECs were quite emphatic. Honorable Williams gave a fantastic quote and spoke about justice and humanity of our decisions. A 40% increase is neither just nor is it humane. The far-reaching impacts of this increase are going to resound through our future far worse than the theft that has happened in the past many years. Honorable Pinar made the points about the burden on SASSA and the UIF that this decision is going to make, and I can tell you now it's going to be stark. I really want to commend Honorable Kennedy. I think you did you made a fantastic speech, and you spoke about the consistently higher than inflation increases that have happened across the years. You spoke about the fact that free basic electricity is insufficient. You had us all agreeing with you until you spoke about a future EFF government. I think you lost us all there, and it delved into the madness that I spoke about earlier. Honorable Peter made the point that NERSA seems to have lost their teeth or never had any teeth, and I think that that's an important point. I do believe the NERSA Act needs to be reviewed. Things have changed substantially, and in discussions earlier on today, the point was made, I believe NERSA Act needs to be substantially reviewed to keep pace with what is happening in our current South Africa. Councillor Ngubane from Selga, I really felt made an important point, and honestly, Honorable Dlamini needs to sit down with the councillor and have a chat about the margin squeeze that has been happening, NERSA allowing greater increases to Eskom than it's allowing through to local government, and the fact that a reduced spend on electricity seriously impacts local government income, and the fact that the local government financing model needs to be closely reviewed was made by a number of speakers, including the visiting MECs. Those MECs, by the way, who live in the provinces, who are closer to the people on the ground, all spoke with one voice, indicating that there needs to be a handbrake placed on this ridiculous increase. Honorable Buthelezi made the comment about the funding model of local government. I made that note, but a number of the MECs, Honorable Tomo as well, spoke about the same. Honorable Tomo also spoke about the widespread dissatisfaction that this increase will have if this actually comes about. Honorable Mayor, I believe he put the human factor into the debate and showed us exactly what the story is about the food being taken from our plates. And he spoke about the decisions of NERSA, that they're not theoretical, they actually affect real people. Honorable Mayor's call to the GNU is perfectly pitched. And I think that it's important that the GNU does stand together and move forward. Honorable Dlamini, the DA has got strong ideas about electricity and where it should be going. Many of these have been echoed by Honorable Ramokgopa, the Minister. He said he's against the increase, and he has also indicated that we need to come together as the ANC and the DA, together with our GNU partners, and fix this exactly like Honorable Skierkogel spoke about. Let's shed job shedding. Let's shed load shedding. Let's work together for a South Africa that works and an economy that puts more people in jobs. I thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ryder, for your input. All right, members, delegates, the House is still in session. Please, thank you, Honorable Ryder, for the motion you sponsored today and the robust nature of the debate which we experienced today. But there's certain ruling which I want to make here, which must be on record. What is critical here, Chair, is that it's true that we're having one parliament. If you're having one parliament, there's this thing which is known as the joint rules of parliament. It means that when you're dealing with joint rules of parliament, it means that if you offend during the sitting of parliament, joint sitting of parliament, you are going to be addressed on a disciplinary level at the house where you come from. So let's say if a member of the NCOP commits a misdemeanor on the side of the joint sitting, the presiding officer will refer that member back to the house where he or she comes from. What you find here is that the rules of both houses are not the same. They are not the same. There's a lacuna on the side of the rules on the side of the NCOP. I'll make a very simple example. The issue of gestures. The other house is very clear. There are gestures which are censored. You cannot have gestures which are offensive. Yeah, gesture. Yeah, no. The gestures are not allowed. Number two, I'll make something like this. The house itself, perhaps someone might have been surprised why I raised the issue of the plate. It's very simple. The decorum of the house provides that you cannot bring food into the house. You cannot bring food in the house. You cannot bring food into the house. That's the decorum of the house. The decorum of the house. So you cannot bring food on the house. So what I'm going to do now, table staff, I'm going to refer this issue of bringing things to demonstrate in the house to the Rules Committee, so that the Rules Committee looks at that. Is that parliamentary, without the permission of the head of the council, to bring staff into the house? On the other house, you cannot come and demonstrate without getting the permission beforehand. So I think that because we're a single parliament, we must try to have almost similar rules so that the rulings can be the same. So the table stuff, I am going to refer this matter, one, of gestures. Number two, the issue of demonstrating in the house without the permission of the head of the council, they must be looked upon. Yes, there's a lacuna here. There's no rule specifically dealing with that. But the other house has that rule, has those rules around that. Yeah. So I'm going to refer those matters straight to the Rules Committee, to the chairperson of the council, so that they can be referred to the Rules Committee. Without further ado, because Honorable Ryder has responded to the debate, then it concludes the debate and then the House is adjourned.
Thank you, sir. Can I show the black rod help me with my mop?
Recording stopped.